I want to do a emulation of a chamfer plate. So you don't have to use a chamfer. You could do, as I'll show you in this example, a profile sketch for the entire outer edge. So I'm going to start by creating a straight line and then angling one off to the edge. Now I'm not worried about the size right now, but now I'm going to do a tangent and arc, come around to where I'm half of an arc, or half of a circle rather. Continue on with straight lines, go off in the horizontal direction, back vertical, back horizontal, and then finish off at that top edge where we started. So notice I have not locked in any location constraints. I'll do that in a little bit, but first I want to do the outer edge measurements. Notice I'm in the wrong unit, so I do want to go through and change the units to, in this case, inches. I'm going to go under Tools, Options, and then under General, Parameters and Measures, Units, change that in the drop down. I'm going to do horizontal and vertical dimensions for all of my straight lines, as well as horizontal change and the vertical change for my angled line. I'm going to add a radius dimension, although it should be the same as the sum of my horizontal distances, but I just haven't completed all of those yet. So if it ends up redundant dimensions, we'll know why. Now I'm going to set my locator to the top corner being coincident to the origin. I could have used any point on the object, and I could have done distance measurements of 0 as well. As long as it's located to the origin, it doesn't really matter how. Some ways are easier than others. So that's just a fairly easy use of the locator. Finally, adding my circles. Okay, so here's a completely different way of doing the same exact object. So again, we're just going to be sketching on our front plane. And this time I'm going to start with a rectangle. Going ahead and setting the origin, the center point of the rectangle to the origin, using a coincident relationship for my vertical and a distance of 0 for my horizontal. Again, either one is completely fine. Next, I'm going to set some constraints for my height and my width. You just have to decide where you're measuring from. So at this point, what I set my height equal to is from the center point of the circle. And then I can place that arc. Then using our trim features, I use the quick trim. I can clean up the rectangle edge that we're not including in our sketch by removing those 3 lines. Next, I'm going to add some constraints to ensure that it's fully defined. Add a tangent relationship because it looks like I missed one of them, which caused it to be overdefined. So I'll delete that first, or excuse me, the second vertical measure there. Put the constraint from the arc to finish up with the constraints for the outer edge of this shape. And then I'm just going to use a rectangle to do the cutout area there. If I had included it in the original, I wouldn't have to trim so much, but since I added a rectangle on top of an existing edge, I'm going to have to trim twice. And that led it to be overdefined because I had just added a constraint from the square, but I already had existing dimensions. So that's something that you can run into if you do complicated, multiple predefined types of elements on top of each other. So next I'm going to do a chamfer. I'm going to do a length by length and 1 inch by 1 inch chamfer. And then finally end it with a circle for the whole cutout. And again, completely different way of doing the exact same shape. Hopefully one of them works for you.